Everybody's settled in. Good evening, everybody. We have three separate meetings tonight. The public hearing to start, and then the regular council meeting, and within that we have a closed session meeting of council. So we'll get underway with the public hearing. I'll call the meeting to order at the August 22nd public hearing to order at 5:30 p.m. Introduction of amendments to the agenda, clerk.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I have none.
Confirmation of the agenda, please, that the agenda for the public hearing be approved as presented. Moved by Councillor Bath, seconded by Councillor Lego. All in favor? Carried. Declarations of pecuniary interest.
To you, Mayor Lawrence, I have one. Councillor Bath has declared interest in the item as he is the applicant.
All right. So we'll call you back after. Staff reports, road allowance closure and sale. Applicant, Mr. John Bath. This is a public hearing convened under the Ontario Municipal Act 2001 to authorize the closure and sale of road allowance abutting the property as described. And I'll let the planning coordinator describe that. It's known locally as 140 Front Street. Planning coordinator will confirm how notice was served to advertise the public hearing.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, the proposal of the purchase of the road allowance was not circulated to internal staff, as this had been circulated in May of 2017 for the closing and sale of a section of an open road allowance being Front and King Street. However, there was discussion with Andrew Jewell from Public Works, which he did not have any concerns. And we did provide notice in the bulletin for 3 consecutive weeks and on the municipal website and through social media, and was sent by mail to the abutting neighbors, to various agencies and the public bodies. And 2 notice signs were posted at the property.
Thank you. So staff report, the planning coordinator will provide a summary of the application.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, a request to purchase the road allowance adjacent to 139 King Street and 140 Front Street in the municipality of Sulicat was received by Mr. John Bath. It is Mr. Bath's intention to use the additional land to construct on 140 Front Street, as the limited area for building would require Mr. Bath to obtain a minor variance. Expanding the existing property will permit the rear setback on the property for construction on 140 Front Street. The tariff of fees recommends fair market value if the addition results in significant increase in value, or a $1,000 flat fee plus HST. Council has the option to charge the flat fee or to require a market value appraisal to establish the price. An administration fee of $1,250 was paid by the purchaser to cover the cost of advertising and staff time to process the application. The purchaser is responsible for all survey costs, legal fees, and registration costs.
Planning coordinator will read out any correspondence received from government agencies.
We did receive an email from Jacqueline Moyle from Bell Canada, and subsequent to the review by our local engineering department of the above noted lands, it has been determined that Bell Canada has no comments with respect to the proposed closure.
The planning coordinator will read out any correspondence received from members of the public.
There was none.
The applicant or a representative is invited to speak to the application. I don't believe that's happening. Questions from members of council? Councillor Lake.
Does Mr. Bath plan to have access from Front Street to that property?
No, so Mr. Bath owns 139 King Street as well, and so there is access from 139 King. There is no access from 140 Front Street.
Okay. Is that a public road or what?
It'll be a private access, which will be part of our housekeeping and our zoning bylaw.
Councillor Timpson.
And on that, how would that affect if either property is sold?
How will the road? Well, it'll there.
They have to go from 139 to 140.
So, if it is sold, there will have to be a registered easement. But Mr. Bath owns 139, the road allowance, and 140. So, depending on where it goes, it could deem.
It's the road allowance, in fact, it was a laneway allowance?
That's correct.
And there is no laneway, or the laneway ends well before. No, that's actually on
King, 139 King.
King Street, yeah, and that's part of the lot, it's just a driveway on the lot. So the little rectangle that we're seeing is a chunk of laneway that was never developed. It's trees on one side, and in fact, a house on the other side, it looks like to me.
That's correct.
Further questions from council? Questions from members of the public? No questions? Members of the public are invited to speak to the application. The public can ask questions of clarification or seek background information, speak in support of the application, or speak in opposition to the application. All questions will be directed to the chair. It is requested only one question be asked at a time. Please identify yourself if you have a question. No questions from the public? Conclusion and right of appeal process. This concludes the public hearing regarding the closure and sale of the road allowance abutting the property described as 140 Front Street. There is no appeal process. And do we have a motion now, clerk? That council receives, is this a motion? Yep. So the council receives this report respecting road allowance closure and sale application for Mr. John Bath. So this is receipt of the application. Moved by Councillor Fanlon, seconded by Councillor Cassidy. All in favor? Carried. Confirmatory bylaw 74-19 to confirm the proceedings of the municipality of Sioux given 3 readings and passed as bylaw 74-19. Moved by Councillor Fanlon, seconded by Councillor Lego. All in favor? Carried. Motion to adjourn the public hearing. Councillor Fanlon, seconded by Councillor Timpson. All in favor? Carried.
Can I have a minute with Maya? My laptop is not starting up.
Before we start the regular?
Yeah. Right. It won't open up, eh? Nothing. It was good yesterday, but I shut it down. But
Yeah, that's okay.
if you can just make me a copy of it,
Yeah, I can do that. That'll make it a little bit quicker.
and I'll leave that with you.
That's what I want to do. Okay, now, 1 second.
Thanks.
Why it's not connecting? It says it's connected. Yeah, sorry, I want to just take it over here. I'll pick away.
All set?
Yep, that's good. I got a copy here.
All right. Is my mic back on? We have another technical issue. Fine. It was working before. Good evening again. Is that on this time? Yep.
Sounds like it.
Okay, we'll call the regular council meeting of August 22nd to order at 5:40 PM. Introduction of amendments to the agenda, clerk?
Mayor Lawrence, if council wishes to add the report and bylaw from the public hearing, you may do so. It would be item 7.11.
That's pretty standard procedure, I think, is it?
Yes.
Anything else?
And as well, under bylaws, we'd be adding bylaw number 68-19.
And you'd like that as the final bullet dot in section 10?
Yes, and there is one other bylaw to be added. That would be bylaw number 7019.
And the first one was 68-19?
That's correct.
Anything further?
That's all I have.
May I have a motion to confirm the agenda as amended? Councillor Fanlon, seconded by Councillor Timpson. All in favor? Carried. Declarations of pecuniary interest.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, Councillor Bath has declared interest in item number 7.11, which was just added to the agenda, and bylaw number 6819.
Adoption of minutes. Motion to adopt the minutes of the following meetings. July 17, 2018 regular council meeting, July 22nd, 2019. Does that say 2018? I just read 2018. Is that?
That's acceptable.
Thank you. Okay, thanks. Okay. Did I say 18 or 19? Well, we'll start again. July 17, 2019 regular council meeting, July 22nd, 2019 special council meeting, July 9th, 2019 special council meeting, Sullicote Hydro Incorporated annual shareholder meeting, June 19th, 2019 statutory public meeting. That the minutes of these meetings all be adopted. Moved by Councillor Bath and seconded by Councillor Fanlon. All in favor? Carried. Motion to receive the minutes from outside agencies and boards. That the minutes of the Kenora District Services Board of Directors meeting on June 20th, 2019 be received. Moved by Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Fanlon. All in favor? Carried. Motion to receive the minutes of the TRC, Truth and Reconciliation Committee meeting June 20th, 2019, of the Police Services Board meeting April 17th, 2019. That those minutes be received. Moved by Councillor Bath, seconded by Councillor Fanlon. All in favor? Carried. Determination of items requiring separate discussion. 7.1, quarterly financial report, second quarter. 7.2, airport master plan contract award. 7.3, consideration of acceptance of construction waste at Hidden Lake landfill. And that one has options, so we will be considering. 7.4, procurement of sewer jetter flusher. 7.5, council resolution amendments. 7.6, part lot control. Mr. Timpson. 7.7, vacant land summary. Councillor Timpson. 7.8, waterfront remediation update. 7.9, senior center funding. Councillor Lego. 7.10, Hudson and Area Advisory Committee recommendations to council. Councillor Fanlon. And I don't need, do we lift the 7.11, the public hearing, clerk, or not? We do? We lift it. We'll lift the 7.11 public hearing then for because it'll be a separate vote because of, or, right. So items requiring separate discussion. 7.3, 7.6, 7.7, 7.8, 7.9, 7.10, and 7.11. Adoption of items not requiring separate discussion. Item 7.1, item 7.2, 7.4, and 7.5. May I have a motion to adopt the items not requiring separate discussion? Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Cassidy. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. So we'll move into the staff reports for 7.3, consideration of acceptance of construction waste at Hidden Lake Landfill is the first item, 7.3. How do you want me to put this on the table, Clerk? Because there's quite a few, there's two motions, two options, it seems.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I would recommend that you ask for a mover and seconder for the entire resolution now, just to get it on the floor, and then when it's time to call the vote, by that point you will have determined what options you wish, and then we will just read those options.
May I have a mover and a seconder to put this item on the table? Thank you. Councillor Bath and Councillor Cassidy, and discussion. It was, I'm sorry, I didn't, we lifted it, I didn't note. We just lifted it. So, Councillor Timpson, you can start off.
Yeah, look, my question is, why are we keeping in one resolution raising of the fees as well, and whether or not we go ahead now. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just reading it wrong. Yeah, the fact that there are three different options is a bit confusing. I'm just not sure what we're voting on, why the two are together in one resolution, raising fees with the acceptance of construction waste.
So, just maybe the Public Works Manager can. Thank you.
Lawrence, this number 2 is just some housekeeping that I added to the report to include at the same time as bringing forward the construction waste, because every year there seems to be some controversy over whether or not this 3.50% annual tipping fee increase that was passed by council resolution in May of 2014 is to be implemented or not. And I think the issue there is it's from a past council. It hasn't been implemented in the past as council resolution 3.14 every year. So just bring that forward at the same time as a motion.
So, two separate items. So, why don't we just carry on with the discussion on the second item that the Public Works Manager just talked about, the percentage increase. So, there's two choices. It seems Public Works Manager's 3.05% as prescribed in 2014 by council, or the other option is to go with the consumer price index.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, that's two options I presented. If council chooses to do something else, then by all means that would be up for discussion. The 3.05% that's in the existing resolution right now was presented by former Treasurer Henry Wall. I'm not sure how he derived at that amount, but that was presented at the same time as a direction that the closure cost annual contribution would be contributed from taxation.
brings up another question, I think, of the finance, because the other part of the report talks about the life of the landfill, how it's much longer now. So the question is it time to look at that in terms of the finances and the costs and the reserves?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I tried this year to hire a consultant to update the financial report. The one we have right now was done in 2010, and it utilizes the preliminary information that the landfill would last 40 years. So the closure contributions and what's required to close the landfill was for a 40-year life period. It needs to be updated to reflect the capacity that's remained and how the landfill is being utilized at this time. With because it's definitely, we know now that it's not going to have a 40-year lifespan. It could have quite a bit longer lifespan. So what we need to do, if you look at the chart that says as of right now, it would cost $1 million to close the landfill, and in 40 years' time with inflation, it would cost $3 million. So the track was to build a fund over a 40-year period to end up with $3 million in 2043. That is no longer applies to how the operations go. So it needs to be recalculated, even if you use the same $1 million cost now, but it needs to be recalculated over a longer period of time, so we can determine where we are at this period in time. And I'm going to speculate that we're still behind where we should be in terms of having a balance in the landfill closure and closure. It's not just closure, it's post-closure. So it costs so much money to close it, and then for so many years after, 20 years, there's post-closure costs of annual monitoring and reporting. It involves both.
Questions, Council? Councillor Bass?
Yeah, that kind of ties together the two, section 1 and section 2. I agree with Andrew that I think we should be using a CPA, not the 3.05. I don't know where that ever came from, but it did. And I certainly think that we should be undergoing a new financial analysis. I read the report actually that designed this landfill, or parts of it anyway. I won't say I read it all. The report anticipated we would have a population of 13,700 by now. We aren't quite there. And so the life of that landfill is going to be considerably longer than, as Andrew said, than was anticipated. I think that goes back. It's hard to answer this question without going to the number one first. I think we sort of got started backwards, but that's okay.
Further discussion?
I'd like to see another financial
Councillor Fanlon and then
analysis, for sure.
Councillor Lego.
My thoughts on it is that what's going to be the cost if to the municipality, and it's going to be a long time. I think it was 40-something years in there. What's going to be the cost, if anything, if we can get another landfill site? This one here took forever.
Well, Mayor Lawrence, I wasn't involved in the procedure for this, but I know that it was initiated, I believe, in at least 1996, and then finalized for design in around 2000, and then a couple of years of construction. We still have 20 years worth of payments on the construction costs for the land. It is quite a to answer your question, I don't think I can answer your question, but when you look at the new act that come out, 2016 Waste Free Ontario Act, and is the ensuing Waste Recovery and Circular Economy Act, if anything, they're targeting diversion rates that are double what we're doing now. So if population increases in waste, then it could be theoretical that waste is still decreasing with population increase. By then, maybe we're incinerating all our waste, and somebody phoned me the other day trying to sell me multi-million dollars worth of equipment that we could turn so much garbage into X years of diesel fuel and everything else that was filled up with 5 minutes.
And the other thought is that we don't know how close these other two landfill sites are to being full. And, we have to think about that, because if we start taking it now, they're going to slow down a bit. But if we don't wait until such time as they're close to being full, then we should start to take it, because we won't,
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, in the design of the landfill, when it was written in 2000, they estimated that the one commercial landfill would be at capacity of 2010. That owner of that landfill has since amended his environmental compliance approval and has actually expanded the footprint of it, and I believe it's almost twice the size. So I don't think it's anywhere near capacity. So the other one, I know it was small, but the last time we discussed this at council in 2015, the owner of that one was actually present, and at that time he stated he wouldn't have an issue trying to amend his ECP to expand it.
is he still the owner of it?
Yeah,
He is, yeah.
Councillor Lego.
So there, oh, sorry, we're sharing this one. So there's still the two private?
yes.
Okay, so covers mine.
So if we go back to the, which we're sort of jumping from issue to issue, but we'll carry on with the commercial or receiving commercial waste at our landfill. There have been contractors have approached me because they're being refused at the commercial landfills. It's being almost a game is being played in terms of bidding and pricing, which I don't think was the intent when 4 or 5 years ago or three when council decided not to accept commercial waste because there were viable alternatives. But it seems like some of those are projects actually the municipalities have out for tender, and we're finding that we're going to be getting a sort of a non-competitive price because of this game playing. I think it's. Have you had any approaches to you?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I have, and then when I get questions like that, I use the response that it was brought forward in council in 2015, and I just say it was council's decision at that time not to accept construction fees because they didn't want to compete with local contractors or business. And then I say to them, if you wish to discuss this, I think your best approach would be to go to one of our councils and present your case, and then from there, you can come back to me as to if this was something that council or the mayor wished to brought forward for discussion, and that's how this is transpired. I have had questions, yes. It's relatively safe, conversations we've had. That's just with frustration of trying to do business, or the inability to do business. There's two separate ones. In the past, it was when one was closed and one was open, they didn't like the cost, and they said that they bid all these projects and they couldn't afford to carry all the cost. Now it's just a different story where by just having they feel it's difficult and detrimental.
Further discussion, council. Councillor Cassidy.
So just a suggestion in light of the history with this, and I know we can speculate either way a lot. Just throw out the idea of a 1-year trial period where we do take construction waste. We can run the numbers, we can see how much we get, we can see what the effects are on the other businesses, and then we can reevaluate in 1 year.
I think I like that idea. I would probably suggest 2 years because the way that bidding works and contracts work, I think that would be a more representative period. And I mean, we decided in 2015, was it, not to accept it? I mean, it can come back to the council table at any time, but I like that idea. Councillor Bath.
Yeah, it certainly was 2015 that we decided not to accept it because we didn't want to compete with private. That, has, in my mind, has gone by the wayside from certain discussions I've had with both contractors and landfill owners. I believe we should take all construction and demolition waste, but at the same time, I'm not sure if we need. I like the idea of putting a moratorium on when, because I think one thing we should do when we accept it, we should try to implement some recovery of a lot of the products that go into the dump. For example, concrete, shingles, those are all recyclable products. And whether we can afford them to recycle them or anybody can afford to recycle them in our community because it's small, that's something we'd have to determine. But the fact is there's a lot of concrete and a lot of shingles that go into the dumps as construction waste that stay there forever. There are ways of recycling it, and I think we need to look at that as part of the whole process. But I'm certainly in favor of accepting construction waste and demolition waste.
I'm in favor of the demolition waste as well. And Public Works Manager, in a discussion that we had, you told me about the structural issues at the landfill, how without construction waste and the waste now is mush, it's very difficult to work the cells in the landfill.
Through you, Mayor, I was just there yesterday, we were doing some operational. We're just trying to figure, we have some problems there with water, and walking on the cell, it is so soft. When we look at what's being brought in, we're trying to float 35,000 kilogram equipment on plastics in organics. I didn't include that in the report, but if we had some ways that had some sustenance, I think it would really help our operations there.
Councillor Timpson.
Why are we veering from our initial values, I guess, of not competing with the private sector? Like what you said that in recent conversations you would you felt that we wouldn't be, or was it just John?
I didn't hear you.
Somebody said, yeah. So why now are we willing to compete with the private sector, but we weren't 5 years ago?
Because quite frankly, the private landfill operators are playing games with whose waste they're accepting and driving prices up on some tenders. So it's not an open for business; it's open for who they're choosing to accept.
And has that been discussed with the contractors? With them? Or with the
2015,
owners?
it was certainly discussed. Yeah.
It has been discussed recently that there's been these issues. Do they know that we're looking at this?
The meeting was publicly advertised. Councillor Legel.
Yeah, I think with our set rates, at least the contractors would know what they have to pay when they're bringing material in, as you stated in your report. So they would have, when they do their contracts, they know at least with using our landfill, these are the prices. They can put that price in and pass it on to to the consumers.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I'm not 100% familiar with the private contractors' fees, but I think ours would be, I agree with you, that it would be more of a known with a scale of what they're bringing in. But I can't comment on it. I believe it's by the load at one, and then I'll throw out there $150 for a half ton and $250 for a dump trailer, and then I have no idea what like a 10 dump truck. I can't speak to that 100%. I've never gone there. I haven't gone there recently.
Councillor Timpson.
Is there any difference between demolition waste and construction waste in terms of implications for taking it?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, the reason why I put that in there, and it was just my way, I thought, of presenting it in a softer tone, because before we said we didn't want to compete with local contractors who own them, so I thought if you wanted to somewhat dabble into this, one way to look at it and perhaps not look at it from a perspective as being detrimental to the local business would be, okay, let's define construction waste as waste from construction purposes, but not demolition waste, and then the private contractors would have the monopoly for large demolitions, such as, say, the high school that's coming up for demo, potentially half of it, the Stoughton Hospital, potential for the Mayfair Theater. Let's not accept that waste, knowing that they would have the soul on that. But that's just was my way of introducing it in the report, and for lack of a better term, in a subtle fashion. If council wishes to accept both, then I would have no issue with that. It's the same waste type as far as I'm concerned. It's from different sources or different businesses.
Let's do. Sorry, Councillor Timpson. Yeah.
Well, I was also going to say too that, so much of this stuff can be not just recycled but reused. And if we had a spot out there where people could come and take scrap wood and even old shingles, if they wanted to, put it on a shack or something, I put stuff out on my curb at curbside swat, and I'm really surprised what people do take. stuff that you would not think they would want, and they do. So maybe that's something we need to look at, is how do we reuse this stuff, not just recycle.
Through you, Mayor Morrison, I look at things from an operational perspective because that's my job. And for me, from an operational perspective, if someone bringing in a load of mixed waste and has someone trying to sort through it to decipher what's good and what's not, to me, just wouldn't work. You would have to start where you're actually sorting it at the source. And I know like in Ottawa, they announced some big huge construction waste factory. They probably have some huge conveyor belt where it's all dumped in, it's all sorted somehow. We just don't have capacity to do something like that. It's small one. Maybe that's coming in the future, but as far as reusing it, from an operational perspective, I think I think it's based on an operational perspective.
Councillor Cassidy.
But just say, if we did have something we did take the construction waste and whatnot, if someone did go in there and there was some 2x4s or some scrap sheets of plywood, is there anything stopping them from, if they did have a use for it before it got pushed into the pile and moved, not with operator?
Mayor, we are very strict that no one is to scavenge, for lack of better terms, in the landfill. I think it's a huge liability issue to allow people to do that. We've had that in the past, and there's clear instructions that a landfill attendant that nobody is to be looking through anything. I know there are reuse centers. I know Dryden advertises a reuse center, and you actually have to pay to drop stuff off at the reuse center. It's like $30 a ton, $60 a ton. And that so much stuff gets put in the reuse center that doesn't get reused, it ends up in the landfill. So they recover some of it. There are I would recommend allowing people to sort through piles of
Absolutely not.
Clerk.
To you, Mayor Lawrence. I also, Andrew, I recall at one point, and perhaps this has changed, I thought our environmental compliance approval actually prohibited scavenging within the landfill.
To you, Mayor, I don't know if it actually points to like a definition of scavenging, but what it states is that the public is not supposed to be in the cell, is what it states. We're deviating from that somewhat from an operational perspective. I'll just say it right here because the way it was operating before, when we had a public drop-off area, it was so detrimental to operations in terms of picking waste up again and trying to move it. It took so much time. It produced so much litter because it was just sitting in an area that wasn't maintained. We tried it in a fenced area, and then the bears got in the fence, and they know we would go in the fenced area. We said, why are we moving garbage twice? Let's put all the garbage in the cell, which is actually contrary to the environmental compliance approval. The MOE's been out there twice to do inspections and has never spoken anything against it. So, like, the public does go in there and drop it off, but I mean, to have it in there and scavenging, I don't think that would be good. I recommend it, nor I do. I think the ministry would be knowing how would go.
So, Council, I'm going to just ask if there's a councillor who would put the motion on the table, and I'm going to suggest that Council direct staff to establish procedures for the acceptance of construction and demolition waste at the Hidden Lake landfill on a 2-year trial basis. Is there anybody who would make that motion?
Through Mayor Lawrence, we do have a mover and seconder on the floor, so they would have to agree to that change.
But it was just sort of like the general. I thought you said we would put that on and then come to it. Okay, you could go through. Isn't that what you said? And then we would specify what the.
Yes, but we still have a mover and seconder, so they need to.
Who's the mover?
Councillor Bath, seconded by Councillor Cassidy.
Councillor Bath, is that a motion that you would entertain?
I'm not particularly in favor of having a moratorium. I think that will come up if it needs to come up anyway. If it turns out the landfill is being misused or being overused, we'll be told by Public Works that that's the case, and we would have to relook at our policy. I don't think we need to put that into the policy. I think I like the idea of directing staff to establish procedures for the acceptance of construction waste at the landfill and demolition waste at the landfill.
So,
I'd prefer to leave it as it is.
But you did want demolition waste, which is a
Oh,
change.
you're saying I changed it already? Good point.
And you're calling it a moratorium. Is it two-year trial period or a 2-year? My understanding from what Councillor Cassidy suggested was that we look at it and see how it's going. It's sort of like a review.
Yeah, it's something that if we put it in, it's in 2 years, so it's something that we track a little more closely, pay a little more attention to how it's affecting the other disposal sites in town, how much of that is coming in, how it's going to impact our long term, and it just comes up for a review after 2 years is kind of that's what I'm thinking.
Is that acceptable, or?
I certainly wouldn't reject the whole process because of that. I don't think it's necessary, but yeah, I'm okay with it.
And seconder was, so that would be the amended. Councillor Legal.
I was just wondering if we could just do it for our term, and then it can be revisited by the next council.
Well, 2 years will bring, at least in 2 years, we only have 2 years from now, what do we have left? We have one
more,
year
so-
left, and then, so if there's a review, the information then would be available for the next council. That would be the one thing. It's not
Sounds
saying
good.
we're going to make a change, it's just saying we'd have information to review, and it would be been tracked. So we have an amended motion on the table, clerk, and you better read it this time since you...
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, the council directs staff to establish procedures for the acceptance of construction and demolition waste at the Hidden Lake landfill site for a 2-year trial period.
Two
And that
year
wa-
or 1 year?
That was the amended resolution moved by Councillor Bath, seconded by Councillor Cassidy.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, further discussion on that? All in favor? Carried. Now we have to do the second item, which is the council maintain the 3.05% from the 2014 report, or that we use the CPI. What would, I'm sure you can tell us, Public Works, what is the CPI that would be relevant today?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I just did an adjustment to the contract for the recycling collection, and the June CPI adjustment on that contract was 2%.
And you don't have a recommendation either way, or?
I don't have a recommendation either way. There just seemed to be some discrepancy on this 3.5%, and because it was implemented or recommended by past councils, every year it was brought up, and there never seemed to be always a question as to whether it should be implemented or not. And one year you do it, and then the next year you don't, and the next year you do it, and then it comes back. I think if it was this council's turn and this council's decision, then maybe it can be brought forward again. Or maybe you don't want either, but just some direction so that every year, bang, it's done and there's no argument.
So we have the wages increase every year by roughly the CPI. Fuel price was up and down, I suppose. I'm not sure. What are your other costs?
Yeah, so you may want to correct everything, the fuel, the energy is a very prominent part of the inflation and what is the cost of the energy costs. There are CPIs and something on that, so you're correct. So CPI might be something that's easier for the public to swallow than just me trying to explain why 3.05% is and hence comes all the arguments and explanations and further.
Okay.
From an operational perspective, it would be easier, I believe, based on what I've encountered since trying to implement it, that a recommendation of the council would be easier to implement. Basically, it's approved now, or
So I'm going to ask, can I get a mover for the option B, direct staff to utilize the Canadian, not the Canadian National, but the Canadian National June to June Consumer Price Index adjustment for annual tipping fee increases, landfill fee at the Hidden Lake landfill to account for costs of inflation and increases in operational expenditures. Moved by Councillor Timpson, or seconded by Councillor Bath. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
And I just thought it's now in the resolution where it says establish staff to establish procedures, but those procedures come back to council. So
My understanding is we were directing you to establish the procedures, period. The council? Councillor Bath?
Yeah, I think it needs to come back probably because the procedure would probably determine the rate, or may determine a change in the rate per ton for garbage coming in or landfill products coming in. And I think that's going to certainly affect the financial analysis in the end. So yeah, I think we would want to see it back.
I just think if you're asking council to review procedures, you're getting into the nitty-gritty of the operations.
That's
that
true.
I think is staff's role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to clarify on the fees end of it, we are, staff are consolidating our fees and charges bylaw with all departments and what their fees are, and that will be coming shortly within the next couple months to council. So what fees that Andrew will be suggesting for this will be in that bylaw.
Okay.
For simplicity of operations, right now, it would just be implemented at the existing rates.
So I think we've answered your question, council,
Yeah.
that we've direct.
Yeah.
Thank you. Moving on, 7.6, part lot control. The council authorizes the passing of bylaw number 69-19, being a bylaw to remove lots 15 and 16 on Plan 23M-965, Boreal Trail subdivision from part lot control for a temporary period of time. Moved by Councillor Fanlon, seconded by Councillor Lego. Discussion. I think Councillor Timpson,
Yeah, just clarification. We're looking at basically 8 units, 4 units on each lot that are townhouses, like a townhouse with a duplex. Is that correct?
No.
It's, through you, Mayor Lawrence, it's going to be, essentially, it's going to be built as looking like a fourplex, but
Yeah.
it's going to be divided down the center of the structure, and they're going to be sold as 2 duplexes. So not 4 units. It's going to be sold as 2 units each side.
so there'd
On
be four-
2 different
four-
lots. Yeah.
Yeah,
So one lot will have
2 units.
2 units, and the other lot will have 2 units. And how many units? But then, so one duplex.
Yes.
Okay, 4. 4
Four
total.
dwelling units.
4 dwelling units, yes.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, well, that was a little bit confusing. It sounded like you were having 8, or I didn't, anyway, that's good. And is somebody purchasing the lot, do we know? Or this
The
has just
plan
been
will be
asked?
to sell them.
Sell, not the lots, but the buildings that they're going to build on them, I think. Is that the
Yes.
plan?
Yes.
So there's somebody, well, hopefully somebody's interested in buying it. All right, okay, that's good. That's all I wanted to know.
Further discussion, council? No further discussion. All in favor? Carried. Vacant land summary. The council receives the manager of development services report, or is it the planning coordinator? Is the manager of development services report. Number RP 2019-138 on municipal vacant land. Moved by Councillor Fanlon, seconded by Councillor Cassidy. Discussion. Councillor Timpson.
Yeah, it was actually a very interesting report. I was really glad to have that. I guess the question is, there seem to be problems with all of the pieces of property in terms of feasibility of developing them, and fairly costly with some of them. Do you have any recommendation as to which of these choices, I would say other than Boreal, where we wouldn't have to invest anything, but which of these would yield the most for an investment if we were to invest the money that you've recommended here? Is there any of these that would be a better investment just to go with?
I think I think the intent was to do a compilation of municipally owned vacant land within the municipality. Some of the information had been available prior about the cost, if it were developed, what it might cost. And it's, as far as I understand, it's as much to have it available for developers who are coming forward.
Right.
It's not, is that correct?
I had asked our
report was to identify it and provide information on each piece.
Yeah, and I found it very useful, and yes, I would like to see an analysis of, where would we go given this information? Because there are some of the things that we could do right now, and that would make them more saleable, I would think. But is it worth it putting into something up in Hannah for 2 acres or something like that? I don't know. Or would we be better going for Broke and developing the Hudson Boat Bay?
Councillor Bath.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of torn on that. Like, these properties are available to a developer to buy, as are, and he will certainly determine which one's the best one. I don't think we want to waste staff time and municipal money determining how much it's going to cost to put the water in. We already have that in the 2002 report, and all it has to be is upgraded, and any developer will do that. Unless the municipality itself is going to develop these, I certainly don't see the reason for ever wanting to do that. We should be presenting them to the developer and showing him the problems, and the report does that very well. And I certainly wouldn't see any point in going beyond that.
Yeah, I think in part the exercise highlights how little vacant land we have, and the vacant land chunks that remain for a reason. That they are they've been there because they're hilly bedrock sites or whatever they are. There's a reason why they're still remain. But if a developer was interested in a 30-unit apartment building on one of those sites, it becomes a little bit more attractive because you're only doing one service. There's a couple of them that might work for 20 unit or whatever it is. But that would be up, I agree with Councillor Bath, that would be up to the developer to come forward and say, here it is. Staff has the report and can show anybody who comes in that wants to have an idea of what vacant land we have.
Yeah. No,
Councillor Fenlon.
I think that's what the economic development was looking for, a picture of properties that we do have and what state they're in for readiness and stuff like that. I mean, if a developer comes, and then we have to start thinking about, getting the water and sewer up to the property lines, which is going to be a big task. And it'll take time frame, probably, I'm just guessing, just a year or so to try and move some of those lots into full service lots.
Further discussion, Councillor Simpson.
Yeah, the lots that were most asked, at least I received the most inquiries about, is the Boreal and what's going on with the Boreal. And according to this, that large piece of property that's the maternity prenatal home, is it? And then you said there was 2 others sold. And then there's this one that you presented with the lots 15 and 16. Can we get an update on just what is in there, what is going in there that we know of for sure?
There's a 20-unit apartment, Aboriginal housing, a 10-unit row house. There's the 2 triplexes, or are they duplexes, that are built in there. There's 2 single-family homes, and there is now under construction the 2 that have risen, or 2 IFNA are building student housing for students in the form of 2 duplexes, I think. And the 30-unit that you referred to, the pre- and postnatal housing for the...
Could you repeat that? So I'd like to just write that down.
It is in the report, Councillor Simpson.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Not in that detail.
2 single-family homes. That's
Yeah,
it is in the report.
the supportive housing, the IFNA. I think you said IFNA. I haven't seen that in the report.
The 2 duplexes. That's in. So that's. Sorry. You want?
Yeah, I would like. Could I just get a list of what's in there? Because I'm asked for it all the time. What's going in there that is public that we know of? The IFNA, the maternity home.
I'll follow up with Jody to make sure
Yeah.
that we have all the accurate information.
Yeah.
And I will provide that to council.
Okay, great.
Further discussion, council?
No, never mind. Okay.
There was a member of the public who raised his hand when this item was. Did you wish to speak? You raised your hand during the.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. I appreciate it. I'm Dick McKenzie, and I'm authorized by Rotary Club. I've been asked to come here tonight, and I expect to only take 2 minutes to 3 minutes now. But the item 8, noted as the water treatment plant on the plan, also noted to be Rotary Park and Group P. Jeffries Park. I would like to ask you, the reason I'm here now is to ask you to remove that from property available for sale at this time. And I ask that for this reason. About a year ago, well, overall, Rotary's been cleaning that park and doing modest upkeep to it for about 45 years. And there was an agreement with previous councils going back to the 60s and the 70s. And Rotary, Drew P. Jeffries was a retired dentist after 50 years here. He was honored, as many organizations in town honored him in 1976. He was a Rotarian as well, and Rotary added his name to the Rotary Park. So just as an overview, I'd like you to know that we are working, and particularly in the last year, I've asked the mayor, he's been very helpful in getting some information. We're trying to ascertain as best we can at Rotary what the history has led us to this point for. Rotary would like to continue to develop that park, and in the last year we've talked more about it. The mayor has provided and staff have provided some information to us, which was very helpful. We've had our own researcher working on it, and that person's my wife, Mary. She has spent her time researching, about 3 weeks full-time almost researching. She's in the process of developing a report so that Rotary knows where we're coming from, a little closer to being for sure. And we would like to share that report and have discussions with the town regarding what we may do. I think it would be a beautiful development, addition to the lake project, waterfront development at the existing park, the existing Farlinger Park. So I don't want to go into too many details because I only know some bits and pieces here and there. So I just wanted to leave you with the thoughts that Rotary has been for about 45 years, maybe as much as 50, cleaning that park every year. We devote to one meeting day to cleaning the park. With the town's permission at the time, among other celebrations, we honored Drew Jeffries by adding his name to the Rotary Park. We developed about a year ago a website called SiouxSunsets.com, and it's a modest step in getting people to view the beauty from the top of the hill, but also with an emphasis on taking pictures of sunsets to see what we can get, because in my own mind, I would like to see this known as the best sunsets in Sunset Country. And so you can look at SiouxSunsets.com. It's a very modest site, not well developed yet, but it's active, has been for the last almost a year, almost a year. And I think that's all I'd like to say to you. I'd like to see that withdrawn from consideration at this time. Mary's been sick for the last month, so she hasn't completed the report, but she hopes to have it to present to Rotary when she's better. As of today, she was in the hospital doing more stuff. So I don't know a time frame to tell you. I don't think I'm looking at a year. I don't think Rotary's looking at a year from now. But I think Rotary may be looking at a couple of months or 3 months maybe. And we would like to have discussions with the appropriate people, and I assume that would be the mayor and council, but at your direction. We'd like to have some discussions on Rotary continuing to use that. And Rotary has to see the report, and we have some work to do ourselves to figure out precisely what we're offering. That's my report. Any questions?
That's good. No, thank you. I think it seems a fair request to me, given the historic and current use. Is that it's used currently for the fireworks displays as well, isn't? Aren't they done from the Lions Club uses as well as the Rotary Club? So we have a vacant land report, and I'm just. I suppose it would be removed from the vacant land report. And what is the? Can I ask the zoning of that area right now?
It's zoned as open space right now.
What if we?
Change the use, we'd have to go through a zoning.
We could do it. Could we zone it as parkland or?
Parkland isn't.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, it is not a property that we are
actively marketing.
actively marketing. It is just a portion of land that actually was.
Yeah, it's vacant land within the municipality owns. So maybe the direction, council, we have received the report with direction to staff to remove that from any summary that's given to developers and that we keep it safe for the municipality at this time. Does that satisfy you?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So that would just be a direction to staff. We can still receive the report. Is that right, clerk? Yep. Good. So with that direction to staff, and unless there's further discussion on it, I'll ask for all in favor of receiving the vacant land report. Carried. Thank you. Waterfront remediation update. The council receives the Manager of Development Services report number RP 2019-140 as information updates on the waterfront remediation presentation on July 29th, 2019. Moved by Councillor Bath, seconded by Councillor Cassidy. Discussion. Councillor Timpson, start with you.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the issues that have been raised by Greg Halady and his group are thoroughly discussed by the consultants when they investigate this issue of dioxins. I don't know what report Mr. Halady was referring to in May 2018. The first I knew about there being burning of the ties was at that meeting in July 29th. I just was not aware that that was happening. According to our consultants, there is no indication that there's dioxins in the land. But I think we have to put it to rest, and that we're going to need some real detail on that, or this controversy is going to carry on. So I just wanted to say that I would really like to see that in detail.
See you.
What would you like to say?
Well, discussing the issue of the dioxins and whether that they would be related to the burning of the railway ties or what, if the dioxins are even in there. Why they only took parts per million versus parts per billion, all those things that were raised, just so that the issue can be put to rest.
I just think that when you say Mr. Halady's group, Mr. Halady represents himself. He's not representing an incorporated or any group other than a few citizens that I know of. We rely on the Ministry of Environment, the Northwestern Public Health Unit. We rely on our staff and our own consultants engaged by ourselves. And I don't think that we should react to the reports from those groups who are both private and public, with credibility, with accountability and responsibility to do their jobs. That's where we should take our direction from.
I'm not saying we're taking direction from any group. I'm just saying a discussion of the issues, explaining why they are correct or they are incorrect about the dioxins, whether the burning of the ties, creosote ties way back, does affect it. Otherwise, this will carry on, this issue will carry on. We ask the public to be engaged. When they engage, it's not always going to be the way we want them to be engaged, but we have to respect that they are expressing their opinions to them. Doesn't mean we take direction from it. It means we address what they're trying to say.
I think, unfortunately, I wasn't at the public meeting. I was away at the time, but I think that in part was what the public meeting was for. Further discussion, Councillor Cassidy.
So I talked to the consultant a little bit about this, and it was after the meeting, and some of the way he framed the issues with that was that you can test for these dioxins, and you can test them anywhere, and they're going to show up because they're a byproduct of burning fossil fuels and stuff like that. So people driving their boats, there's 70 boats there while a weekend, all idling or whatever, and these lakes are heavily used, so there's going to be some residual of that in there, and to be able to prove whether or not those came from that specific instance, that's the issue. And that's the same with the forgive me, I can't remember terminology, but it's like the PCCs or the other byproduct from the burning of the creosotes and stuff like that. He explained to me that there's actually a broad spectrum of these that exist, and some of the most advanced testing can only narrow down 30 of them, and then to try and pinpoint which one of those 30 actually directly came from there, it's very difficult to do. So
And that's the kind of information then that should be in writing that we can refer to. I'm not saying either side is right. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. But that's the kind of information that should be available to us. Just what you've said now. Yeah. So that's enlightening, and that's what I understand. But that kind of detail is what we're going to need, because we're going to have to respond to this.
Yeah.
The intent is to respond to Mr. Haley's letter. He also sent a similar letter to the Ministry of Environment, and they did respond.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you that our consultant is very engaged. He is working on our behalf, so we went to him after the meeting. He was there. Meaning myself and our manager of Development Services, Jody Brinkman, talked to him, and I asked him to go over all of the reports so far to see, especially where they did their borehole testing, to see if there's any evidence of dioxins or PCHs or PHAs, so something like that.
Yeah.
To determine whether or not he thinks that there's reason to be concerned on behalf of the municipality. The thing is they are working with the Ministry of Environment. The Ministry of Environment is telling CN exactly what they need to do. So we have to rely on their assurances that, and if you, like our consultant said, if you dig long enough and hard enough, you're going to find something pretty much anywhere.
Yeah.
So far, we've been satisfied as staff with what our consultant is saying. He is still reviewing the reports, as Jody had mentioned in this report, because we directed him, we asked him to do that, and he is doing that. And to further dig and do more testing would be really, really expensive. I'm not sure how expensive, but it would be significantly expensive. And Mr. Halady references to that the beach isn't safe, and all of our discussions so far with the public health unit has indicated that there's no concern as long as you're not ingesting large quantities of water or whatever, things like that. So we have that notice at the beach. That's what we're required to do, and so far we've had no issues with bathers using the beach.
Yeah, I mean, I totally trust the consultants. I'm just saying, if we could have that, just what Councillor Cassidy is saying, what you're saying, if we could have council could have that in our possession, so that when we have to talk about it, we've got it there. It's the kind of information that you're giving us.
So a brief summary. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I don't want to focus on the one gentleman, but in the letter to mayor and council that he's written, he's discredited everybody, every agency, public and private, that is accredited agencies. He said that none of them are doing their jobs. Listen to me. I'm the only one who knows. Which, I'm sorry, the credibility and from that point of view is...
That's not my issue. My issue is that we, council members who are approached by the public, have that information ourselves, have the scientific summaries ourselves, so that we can respond, not to Mr. Halady, but to anybody who is responding, is asking.
Yeah, and I think what you're asking for is their advice based on the scientific information.
Yes.
We don't want to review scientific information and make those decisions. We want to know they have done that, which I'm sure they are, and give their best advice.
Exactly. Yeah. And in somewhat more detail, to the level of our understanding, my understanding anyways, so that we can respond to the public when we are asked. Thank you.
Through your worship, just for clarification, are you looking for that in another council report, or would you like me to report that to council and that weekly update, but separate?
I would prefer a separate. I don't know that it has to come to council. It's information.
Just separate information to inform council.
Yeah.
All right. If any further discussion on receiving the Manager of Development Services report? All in favor? Carried. Senior Center funding. Sorry. Oh, did you want to talk? Sorry. Sure. One up further item. Yep.
Just to add to that, statutory is I told him that the municipality won assurances that should anything in the future happen where they have to remediate in any way or, you know, dig up what we're putting in for our capital infrastructure to upgrade the town beach, that the CN would be 100% liable for restoring anything that needed to be restored with reference to our upgrades there. And he indicated while we were in Ottawa that I was to send a letter to him and he'll have legal draft an agreement in that respect. So that provides extra assurances for the municipality and the citizens that that our infrastructure will stay intact, and if it doesn't, if they have to remediate in any way later on, that they will be 100% responsible for the cost to restore it.
We'll see what comes.
Yeah.
All right, item 7.9, senior center funding. That council authorizes the passing of bylaw number 75-19, being a bylaw to establish an annual funding contribution to the Sioux Area Seniors Activity Center. Moved by Councillor Fenlon, seconded by Councillor Lego. Discussion starting with Councillor Lego.
I just have an issue with the 5-year term. I would prefer it just run the term of our council up to 2022. I feel that if some of us don't run again or don't make it again, I feel the next council needs to readdress this and then vote on it and take it forward. As for inflation or the annual inflation of 2%, I would just prefer us to keep it at the 13,760 for the next 3 years, and then it can be readdressed and any adjustment can be made by the next council.
Is there a requirement for the 5 years based on the any agreements that the Seniors Activity Center has?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, no. This request has come from the senior centers because they would prefer, understandably, not to have to go through the rather arduous process through the budget of requesting this, especially when council understands that without the 20% commitment from council, they get no money whatsoever.
The 5 years would take it in, so it would be the remaining 3 years of this council plus 2 into the next council?
Through Mayor Lawrence, yes, and because again we're talking about their fiscal year, which differs from council's fiscal year, so I wanted to provide sufficient time so that it's not right in the middle of an election or a brand new budget process where this gets forgotten or missed or what have you. I think, Mayor Lawrence, you have made comments similar to this in the past where it's often more helpful to have something run through at least through the first year of a new term of council, because it's hard to address everything and revise everything right away at the beginning of a term.
I was going to make that comment. Well, I appreciate what you're saying on one hand, Councillor Lego, on the other. If we constantly do that, then the new council comes in, and let's say it's a brand new council, 7 new people. They're swamped with all manner of decisions and discussions that they're just getting their feet wet. I feel it's better to carry things across the council terms, and sometimes just ignore the council terms. That if we feel this is the right thing to do and the best thing to do, then go ahead and do it. A future council can come in and say, those seniors aren't getting a penny, and I believe they could rescind the bylaw and pass whatever bylaw they wanted. And especially it would come at budget time, it would be part of the budget discussion regardless. So I hear what you're saying, but I'm rather more in favor of doing the 5 years and having it carry over. Council? Councillor Timpson?
Yeah, I think the other issue too is that 13,490 is 20% now, but we don't know whether that'll be 20% next year. You know, with hydro rates going up and basic costs going up, 20% might be 15,000. So,
Clerk.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, yes, that's why I included the inflationary increase to account for those types of variables. That's, at least from my observations, that's kind of what council seems to be trying to do with its own operations and so on, is to keep with the pace of inflation. And if you look over the last 15 years, the rate of inflation has been on average 2% or just under 2%. So that was the rationale for that part of the recommendation. Also, Councillor Timpson, and through you, Mayor Lawrence, it's 20% up to. So, for example, if their budget came in next year that 20% only equaled 10,000, then they would only get 10,000, not 13,760. So if they, for example, choose to change their programming, or they find more efficient ways to offer some of their programming, and their actual budget comes down, then it's still only 20% of the budget. Conversely, if there's major increases to their budget, we're only providing up to this amount. If they need it more than this, they would need to come back to council and request it.
So right now, the motion includes the 20%, the 5 years, and the inflationary increase. So I'll find out if Councillor Lego and others were satisfied with the discussion, whether they, by calling the vote, all in favor? Carried. Item 7.10, Hudson and Area Advisory Committee recommendations to Council. The Council receives the Hudson and Area Advisory Committee recommendations as outlined in the Acting Deputy Clerk's report dated August 22nd, 2019, RP 2019-139, and further, the Council provides direction to staff through the CAO regarding the Hudson Advisory Committee's recommendations. Moved by Councillor Fenlon, seconded by Councillor Bath. Discussion starting with Councillor Fenlon.
We have, the committee and myself feel that we got to make some movement and have something started in Hudson, because we've been beating around the bush on a bunch of items for years now, and it doesn't seem to be, nothing seems to be moving. And so my thought was that we bring the CAO and the Economic Development Manager to sit at the table and have a discussion about issues that the Hudson Advisory Committee is having. And the other thing is that is there any grant money for tourism and other things like that that can be allocated to Hudson to start some of this process that we'd like to see?
Council? Councillor Lego.
Just for motion one about receiving emails. For me, I would think that should be up to the ward to pass on that. And since you sit on that committee, that any pertinent information on Hudson or developments in Hudson, that they get that information promptly.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I think Mr. Sterrett spoke to when he was here, right? There was a little confusion on the address on the thing, whether it was, so he just wants clarification when he's reading that kind of stuff. And myself too, I had to decipher it out. I thought it was down on First Avenue in Sulico. So whether items like that which are contentious should be stated Hudson for, and go from there.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it could be confusing, and it was confusing.
Yeah.
It could be more clarity by having Hudson on, and I don't think the clerk's department would argue with that. I think that would be all right. I have issues with the identifying specific people to be emailed separately. Mm-hmm. I think then you open a can of worms to how many more are we going to be notifying if it impacts them, and I think it also sets a precedent that somebody else could say, well, they got emails for their issue and we didn't get emails for ours. We weren't properly notified. Clerk.
Thank you, through Mayor Lawrence. So not that I want to speak for the Development Services Department, but I think everyone sort of acknowledged that was one error in one ad that, they put out many ads every year on these topics. It was an error. It was a genuine error that they referred to Sioux Lookout as opposed to Hudson in the addressing in the ad. However, as you, Mayor Lawrence, pointed out at the meeting at which this matter was considered, the Planning Act provides for a very robust notification process already, including signage on the property, notification to the neighboring properties, and so on and so forth. So I think making the point that we need to be as accurate as possible in our ads, I think that's a fair comment, and I think we strive to do that as best we can. But with respect to, well, I'll just stop there. Thank you.
So on motion 1, I'm in favor, but I would like to delete the committee be notified by email. I feel that is opening cans of worms all across the board and potential liability on planning issues. The clerk has just stated very clearly how well these things are publicized. And addressing the first part of the issue, I think resolves that.
I think your way too. Emails shouldn't be used for notifying the public of what's happening where and when. And there wasn't enough knowledge out there to the public of this little project that was taking place in Hudson at the time. There was, it wasn't advertised in the paper a whole lot about anything pertaining to that, and I think that's part of the problem there too. It wasn't a work up to the ceremony that was taking place at the time. I mean, a lot of councillors didn't even know it too.
So having said, can we amend the, is the mover, discussion, Councillor Tenson?
Well, yeah, I don't really see the problem, and just as a courtesy to let, this is the Hudson Advisory Committee. It's like the quote council of Hudson. It's not, no, but we're talking about citizen engagement. Why are we afraid to just advise the Hudson Advisory Committee that this development is possible? Just letting you know. Do you have anything you'd like to add to it? I mean, it's the Hudson Advisory Committee, and if we want them to be interested in developing and doing what they want to do in their committee, in their little town, let's just involve them. Sorry, but I just,
to answer your
I just
question,
think it's a moot point.
to answer your question, why, I think it was clearly stated why we think that's not a good idea.
I don't.
You don't agree? That's fine.
No, I don't think
Councillor
that's really that valid.
The discussion around, there wasn't enough, the Hudson Advisory asked me at a meeting about what was taking place in Grant Store at that time prior to this incident here. I couldn't talk about it because it wasn't public knowledge at the time. And I told them that. I said, there's going to be something coming, but it's not up to me to say about it. It's proponents of the deal that was taking place. And it wasn't made public early enough to get it out there to enough people to satisfy them to get it. That's all I got to say on it.
So the mover and seconder were Clerk Councillor Fanlon. So for motion, do we do both?
Sorry, through you, Mayor Lawrence. In this case, we don't really have to change anything in the actual motion because council is only providing direction to staff through the CAO. So in this instance, the direction to staff, I would assume, would be that Hudson addresses be used when advertising Hudson properties for planning-related matters.
Okay. And I think that was, as you said, it is already the intent. There was an error made. Yeah. So that's fine on that one. We're good. Okay. So I don't have to call a vote on this. Okay. I'm sorry. I see motions in the.
Through Mayor Lawrence, these were the motions that the committee made.
Thank you.
The recommendations to council.
Yeah, of course. So then on number 2, which is the funding options for the Lost Lake Pavilion project. Did you want to speak to this, Councillor? Sorry?
The what?
The Hudson Area Committee requests the council consider funding options available for Lost Lake Pavilion project in the 2020
Yeah, I
budget.
talked about that earlier, about trying to look for, because there is gonna be money made, I think, through the gas taxes on some tourism and stuff like that. Yeah. Okay.
So have you received enough direction on this item as well? Have you, no, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, I thought
I
Councillor
would
Fenn
still
was.
like to see the EDC officer and the CAO come and visit the Hudson Advisory Committee to put some insight into how the process is going to work and how it might have to, and what is available to start a process.
Yep.
You don't have to have direction from council.
So the advisory committee would invite the CAO and the ECDEV manager, is that what you asked for? Okay. Underway, good.
Okay.
This item is covered, clerk. I can move on to the next item. Thank you. And the next item is the public hearing, I think, item 711.
My apologies. We still have to call the question on the actual receiving the report and providing the direction to staff. It was moved by Councillor
Gotcha.
Fenelon and seconded by Councillor
you.
Bath.
Yep. Just when I'm looking at my screen and seeing the motions, and you're telling me there are no motions. There is a motion on the table. All in favor to receive the report? Carried. Thank you, clerk. 711, public hearing, and I'll let you read the motion for this one. And
Just for clarification on the motion, number one that they put forward, council is considering the first part but not the second part of their motion.
yeah.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, the recommendation for item 7.11 reads that council authorize the passing of bylaw. Sorry, I need to stop.
Councillor Bath, you declare conflict, so this is.
Are we in 7-Eleven now?
Yes.
Well, I'm out of here.
John, turn your mic off. When you,
I can't hear with it. I can talk to you though.
yeah, we'll hear what you're cursing. Item 711, public hearing.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lawrence, the recommendation reads that council authorize the passing of bylaw number 6819, being a bylaw to permanently close, declare surplus, and authorize the sale of a highway of the municipality of Sioux Lookout.
Highway, did you say?
They're all called highways.
May I have a mover, please? Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Cassidy. Discussion? All in favor? Carried.
I'll go get Councillor.
Okay, thank you. No delegations. Bylaws. It says none, Deputy Clerk. It doesn't mean none, does it?
My apologies.
Okay. None except these ones. Following bylaws be introduced, read a first, second, and third time, and considered for passing by council. Bylaw number 69-19, being a bylaw to remove lots 15 and 16 on sorry, where am I going here? There we are, thank you. On Plan 23M-965, Boreal Trail subdivision from part law control for a temporary period of time. Bylaw number 7119, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute an agreement between the corporation of the municipality of Sioux Lookout and Capital Park Consulting Incorporated for the provision of strategic planning services. Bylaw number 75-19, being a bylaw to establish an annual funding contribution to the Sioux Area's Seniors Activity Center. Bylaw number 76-19, being a bylaw to rescind bylaw number 20-19 and to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Sioux Lookout for a special council meeting February 28th, 2019. Bylaw number 68-19. Thank you. Bylaw number 70-19.
To authorize and direct the mayor and the clerk to execute an agreement between the corporation and the municipality of Sioux Lookout and WSP for the development of an airport master plan.
The bylaws 69, 19, 71, 19, 75, 19, 76, 19, 70, 19, and 68, 19? Nope. Be read first, second, and third time and passed. We have a mover already? Moved by Councillor Fanlon, seconded by Councillor Cassidy. All in favor?
Question? Just what is this to rescind bylaw, confirmatory bylaw?
That was one of the items that we didn't lift for separate discussion. Was it not?
Yeah, I can explain very easily, though, if you like, through you, Mayor Lawrence. There was a bylaw numbering error earlier this year, so bylaw number 20-19 got used twice, one for a confirmatory bylaw and one for something a little more substantial. So we're just rescinding it and passing a new one with a new number. So you're still confirming what happened that meeting. We're just essentially changing the bylaw number.
But you've left it in the resolution that bylaw 7619 be read a first, second, and third time, but it says here rescinding. Oh no, rescinding
2019. So we're passing a bylaw to rescind the bylaw and to adopt and to reconfirm the proceedings of that meeting.
Okay, good. Yeah, all right. Yeah. Okay.
All in favor? Carried. Notices of motion to reconsider. Clerk?
Sorry, through Mayor Lawrence. Now we have to ask Councillor Bath to step out for a moment while we vote on bylaw 6819.
One more time? Or the first, second, and third time? Okay.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. Go ahead, please. Clerk.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, that bylaw number 6819 being a bylaw permanently closed, declare surplus, and authorize the sale of a highway to the municipality of Sioux Lookout be read a first, second, and third time and passed.
Moved by Councillor Fanlon, seconded by Councillor Timpson. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Bath. Okay, 11, notices of motion to reconsider. We have none?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I do have one.
Getting my exercise here, ain't I?
Is this you have something here?
I do. Sorry, I'm just have to record times.
I'll give you a moment. Yeah.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lawrence. We have received a motion to reconsider from Councillor Cassidy. The topic is reconsideration of amendments to Sioux Lookout Hydro Inc. shareholder declaration as approved by bylaw number 6219 at the July 9th, 2019 special council meeting. And just so council, just a quick reminder, so motions to reconsider require a mover and seconder, and then it's discussed at the following council meeting. So
we need a mover and seconder tonight, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So the motion that has been submitted reads that council reconsiders the passing of bylaw number 6219, being a bylaw to authorize revisions to the shareholder declaration relating to Sioux Lookout Hydro Inc., and to authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute the revised shareholder declaration between the corporation of the municipality of Sioux Lookout and Sioux Lookout Hydro Inc. July 2019 update, and further, that this reconsideration is required for the following reasons: lack of clarification regarding the amount of the proposed remuneration for Hydro board members as per the recently revised Article 3 of the Sioux Lookout Hydro Inc. shareholder declaration, which reads, in consideration of the responsibilities directors have to the corporation, the shareholder, and the customers of Sioux Lookout Hydro Inc., each board member shall be entitled to receive an annual honorarium to be paid out of the Sioux Lookout Hydro Inc. operational budget and calculated at a rate of 1% of the annual dividend paid to the shareholder.
So I just want to get this right. This isn't to be discussed right now. If there's a mover and a seconder, it goes to the next council meeting for discussion?
That's correct.
Is there a mover and a seconder? I'll ask for... Well, apparently there are, but we have to clarify who. Mover? Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Cassidy.
Sorry, through you, Mayor Lawrence, it would have to be moved by Councillor Cassidy because he brought the motion forward. So,
moved by Councillor Cassidy, seconded by Councillor Lego. End of discussion.
Correct.
I believe that's the first motion to reconsider that I've done, so interesting, the procedure. Okay. Question, councillor reports. Councillor Timpson.
Yeah, things slowing down a little bit this summer. Involved in the CAO and the clerk and some discussions on the planning for the TDMA conference. February 1st, I think. And Brian's got lots of really interesting creative ideas for this austerity, right? Anyway, so that's been fun to throw ideas around. Second thing I was quite involved with this month was the booth at the environment green booth at the trade fair, which was really quite fun, and we received a lot of good comments from people. And, we had a draw for a food cycle as well, which recycles your or that composts your food instantly for 3 hours. And people were really excited about that. We must have had 2 or 300 visitors. We counted up all the ballots we had. It's at least 300 people came by. People were excited that they got the reusable wraps, the beeswax wraps. Yeah, it was good. It was really great fun. And so I think we're going to be looking at environmental issues as one of the main things in our conference. How that comes out. Stinks. So, basically.
Thank you. Councillor Bath?
Well, yeah, very busy summer, but not so busy with municipal stuff. I was at PACE meeting last week, and we did the first meeting for our new executive director, Carolyn Bowling. She used to be a librarian in Fort Francis, and she's come to PACE. Seems like a very good catch for us. Other than that, I just attended the public meeting regarding the beach. That was what it for my last meeting.
Councillor Fanlon?
I haven't attended any meetings. Quiet. One thing that I'd like to comment on is the maintenance that should be happening around the water treatment plant. You come around the corner and tourists and people alike, you come around the corner and all you see is weeds and trees and bush and vines growing up the side of our water treatment plant. And I don't think that should be happening.
So, Councillor Fanlon, instead of, it seems like you're introducing new business. Why don't you ask staff to bring this to their attention and have a report brought if one is needed? Or just follow up with staff, yeah. Yeah.
So
It just,
it shouldn't be. The pavilion that's there, that's over there, that's one of the things that we want to use as a lookout. It's not being maintained and cut and stuff like that. It's just the site, okay?
okay.
One of the things that I'm going to mention. And that's it.
Councillor Cassidy?
For me, I attended various blueberry events in the past month. We had a good meeting with Mr. Nolt, and I've had 2 meetings with potential development in town. I did a shift at the environment booth at the trade show, and I attended the beach meeting as well. So.
No committee meeting for the Arts, Cultural, and Heritage Committee. We did have one meeting for the Committee of Adjustments. I could not make the July meeting for the Kenora Home of the Aged due to the short notice, and I was on holidays. But I will be going there next week to Kenora for my first meeting there. So that's everything. And I've been sick for 3 weeks, so I'm glad nothing was going on.
Sorry to hear that. I think for me, the last 5 weeks were probably dominated by the Blueberry Festival, personal vacation, and AMO, getting ready for AMO, finding out which delegations we had reasonably late in the game, and working with the CIO to prepare briefing notes and going to AMO, which was gone for a week. I will be providing, I just came back last night, I'll be providing a report to council, I hope by the end of the day tomorrow. I think it was a successful AMO visit. We had delegations, I think municipal delegations with 8 ministries, able to meet with CN, with Hydro One, and then participated, and the policing bureau, and also participated in the AMO board meetings that I had, and the Northwestern Ontario Municipal Association delegation to ministers as well. But I'll do a full report and actually I think I have interviews with CKDR in the bulletin as well, so that'll be a report to the public in there. We now move into closed session. So maybe we'll just take a 3-minute break to allow the crowd to dissipate and move out. And I'll just ask for the motion to move into closed session. The council move into closed session at 7:15 p.m. to consider subject matter of general nature, as noted below, matter relating to personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, per Municipal Act. One item, updates to council boards, commissions, and committees. Moved by Councillor Fenlon, seconded by Councillor Timpson. All in favor? Carried. When we resume in a few minutes, we'll be in closed session.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, with respect to items arising from closed session, the following resolution, that Council approves amending Schedule A to bylaw number 92-18, being a bylaw to make appointments to various boards, commissions, and committees by adding Jamie Hemsworth-Homelin and Tiffany Thompson to the Daycare Advisory Committee, and further, that Council approves amending Schedule A to bylaw number 92-18, being a bylaw to make appointments to various boards, commissions, and committees by deleting Kristen Ward from the Daycare Advisory Committee.
Moved by Councillor Fanlon, seconded by Councillor Cassidy. All in favor? Carried. Confirmatory bylaw number 74-19 to confirm the proceedings of Council of the Municipality of Sioux Lookout, August 22nd, 2019 regular council meeting. Be read a first, second, and third time and passed. Moved by Councillor Fanlon. He's getting tired. Seconded by Councillor Cassidy. All in favor? Carried. Motion to adjourn the meeting, moved by Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Cassidy. All in favor? Carried. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.